And thank you all for being part of this event. I'm a 20-year Navy veteran and retired as a Navy commander. Spent about half my career operating nuclear submarines. And I'll ask a question to everybody. How many times while we were deployed did we have to spend resources and time refueling with hydrocarbons? The answer was 0 times. We could have some debate about where nuclear power fits in. I'm personally a big advocate. It's not technically a renewable, but I saw firsthand the strategic importance of not being reliable on hydrocarbons from a military perspective. I would like us, as we move forward to decarbonizing the energy grid, to keep nuclear power in the mix for consideration, as long as we can do it safely, as long as we can do it economically. We should consider all carbon-free sources. And I think maybe we could all agree that Europe's energy security situation might be just a little bit better if they had a little bit more reliance on nuclear power, especially in Germany. I want to take us back. I'm going to read something from the New York Times to you all. This quote: "Iran, awash in oil money, thumbs its nose at the United Nations demands for it to desist in its nuclear adventures and daily threatens to wipe Israel off the map. President Vladimir Putin of Russia, awash in oil money, jails his opponents at home and cozies up to America's opponents like Iran and Hamas abroad. Sudan, awash in oil money, ignores the world's pleas to halt its genocide in Darfur. Venezuela's president, awash in oil money, regularly tells America and his domestic opponents to take a hike. Add Nigeria, Uzbekistan, Angola, Saudi Arabia, Chad, and Syria, all flush with oil and gas, are comfortably retreating from even baby steps of democratization." That could be March 22nd, 2022. That's from an editorial in 2006 by Thomas Friedman. He calls it the first law of petropolitics, and it posits the following: the price of oil and the pace of freedom always move in opposite directions in petro-states. According to his first law of petropolitics, the higher the price of crude oil, the more erosion we see in petro-states, in the rights to free speech, free press, free elections, freedom of assembly, government transparency, an independent judiciary, and the rule of law, and in the freedom to form independent political parties and non-government organizations. Literally in the last 24 hours, President Putin's chief political rival, Alexei Navalny, was just sentenced to 9 years in prison on trumped-up charges of fraud. We know what the effects of hydrocarbon rentier states have, and we do understand the effects it has on global security. I don't think the narrative has really changed that much since Mr. Friedman's insightful observations early in the 2000s. I also am supportive of using all elements of our federal powers to deal with crisis. Our last large-scale global oil crisis in 1973, the U.S. actually acted very boldly. Federal action authorized the U.S.'s participation in the International Energy Agency. It created a strategic petroleum reserve to free up billions of gallons, millions of barrels of crude oil, and to help offset the unpredictable nature of hydrocarbon rentier states, which is not to advocate we need a bigger strategic petroleum reserve, but it is to say we know how to act boldly and we know how to use all the levers of federal power to improve our energy security. I think the Defense Production Act can be one of those tools. I'm on the record and feel strongly that the climate provisions in the Build Back Better, the $555 billion that was allocated to start and get a long way in our decarbonization of our energy grid and our transportation sector. We need to use all of these elements. So only way to free democratic countries from the grip of autocratic oil producing nations is to accelerate this transition. It's as true when I was on a nuclear submarine as it is for our nation here, to free ourselves from the dependencies and from the corrupt nature that petro-states yield and wield, as we see quite dramatically in the last several weeks. So I support these measures and look forward to the federal government taking the types of actions they have before, and doing so to decarbonize our grid and our transportation sector. So thank you.